Morning. It's Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, and we're still in the midst of a pandemic, but it has slowed a lot. And so mask mandates are coming off now. And the baseball season has been postponed because they couldn't come to an agreement. So who knows when that's going to start, and it doesn't matter really much to me. And the other night, the president gave the State of the Union speech. It was a very good speech, I think. And it appeared to me that for the first time in a long time, we had coalesced. The Republicans and Democrats stood up and cheered on several points that the president made. The Republicans were with him. Much of the time, they were not with him, but they were with him enough to make me feel that there is a possibility that eventually his country might get back together. And Biden talked about Ukraine and about what we should be doing for the Ukrainians, how important it was to take the stance that we have taken. And then he also talked about defunding the police, which he said we should not be defunding the police. We need to fund the police. And this was a message that hit home with the Republicans. And there were several Republicans at the end of the day who said that his speech was good. Many of them mentioned the fact that he stated we should get back to making things in America. He's tired of seeing labels that say made in China, made in Taiwan, made in Indonesia. He wants to see more things made in America. And that resonated with the Republicans also. So his stance on the Ukraine, mentioning the Made in America, were very important issues. And you could see at that point, when he said those things, that Kevin McCarthy, who was the leading Republican in Congress, was standing up and clapping, and so was Scalise, who was his second in command. They were standing and clapping. So Biden made some critical points to unite this country, and he got through, although I never saw Mitch McConnell smile. So I could say that the Republicans behaved pretty well, and at least Biden was able to get them to stand up and clap in certain places. And it could see from the tenor of this speech that he was trying to move the Democratic Party closer to the center. He was trying to subtly tell the squad and those people who are progressives, extremely progressives and extremely unrealistic in terms of how a government should have run. He was making a speech that sort of said to them, look, we have to move to the center. We can't be moving way to the left like many of you want. But he didn't say that out. But it was very subtle. I thought it was very subtle that he came across on those points. And another thing he did that was very important is his rant on prescription drugs, on the fact that there's no reason why we can't negotiate on prescription drugs. And that got a lot of applause too. And I still don't understand why, if he's saying we should do that, why can't we do it? What is stopping us from negotiating on prescription drugs? If the president says we should be able to negotiate and that we have the highest drug prices in the world, why is that still the case? What is stopping that? Do the big pharmaceutical companies have such a tight grip on Congress that we can't unravel from the horror of the highest drug prices in the world? So that was a good point that he made. He scored some points with a lot of people. And you saw the Republicans stand up for that too. So I don't understand why it's failing in Congress. Then, of course, he talked about U.S. capitalism and the fact that we must have competition, that there must be competition within our society. Otherwise, we will fall by the wayside. We must stand up to those who would oppose us in these areas also. So I guess that was a poke at China somehow. But nevertheless, he said it. And again, he got applause from the Republican Party. So it wasn't 100% that he won the Republican Party over to his side. But he did make some dents in the image of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. So he did a good job. He did a good job. And then earlier, he also, well, not earlier, I guess after the speech is over and the next day dawns, President Zelensky of Ukraine wants us to create a no-fly zone over the Ukraine. And if we did that, that would be essentially declaring war on Russia, because we would have to send U.S. planes in to enforce the no-fly zone. And Biden has refused to do that, because we don't want to go to war with Russia. We want to keep the pressure on them. And so far the pressure is getting greater because companies are leaving Russia now. They are leaving Russia. Oil companies, Shell, Mobil, they're leaving Russia. They're closing up their offices and leaving Russia. They don't want to have anything to do with them. And around the world, people are stopping buying Russian goods. And those Russian goods are mainly gas and oil. So people are stopping doing that. And that's hurting Russia. And meanwhile, Russia's bogged down on this 40-mile long trek into Kiev. But it's not over there yet, and I don't know how it's going to end, but at least I see more and more things getting in the Russians' way. So we won't agree to a no-fly zone, because that would be a war, and we don't want to start a war. We don't want to have our planes flying over there. And so we have told Zelensky we can't do that. But meanwhile, on the other side of it, we've got a bill that's coming up in Congress that is preparing something like $10 billion in aid for the Ukrainian people. So we're doing everything we possibly can do for them, but we're not going to war. And so I leave you with those thoughts this morning, that somehow or other we may get through this cycle, and it may improve the situation in the United States. But I'm not holding my breath on that thing. Although it was good to see that there were some congressmen and some senators that were standing and applauding during Biden's State of the Union speech. So I leave you with those things this morning, and I'll see you later tomorrow. Bye.